Hey everyone, Katie Rochetko here. I am a reporter and a white person. I don't know if you can tell that, but I wanted to let you guys know that with everything going on in the world right now, we as white people need to be doing a better job at having conversations where we are not the ones talking, but we are the ones listening. And it is not a person's of color to job to educate us. We can do the educating for ourselves in a lot of ways, but if you have the opportunity to listen to people who are different than you about their experience, about their opinions, you need to take every opportunity you can to have those conversations. And so I am fortunate enough to have an amazing friend, Tanisha Harris, who is a person of color. She's living in Guam right now. Her husband is in the military. And I just wanted to talk to her and I wanted to ask some questions that I have always had about race and racism and black people and black culture, as well as just get her opinion on what is going on here in the United States of America. And so it is not a perfect conversation. It is messy. It is awkward at times as I'm trying to formulate the question in the most sensitive way I can. And you may not agree with my questions. You may have more questions, in which case I encourage you to definitely go and ask them to the appropriate people at the appropriate times, or just, do a little research, do some Googling. But then also, you may not agree with everything Tanisha says because Tanisha is only speaking about her opinion based on her own experience. And so, this is just something that we wanted to share with you for basically two reasons. One, so that you are encouraged to have similar conversations, and that two, if you don't know how to have conversations or what questions to ask, this might give you some idea. And so with that, I want to introduce you to my friend Tanisha Harris and talk about the 12 things you wish you could ask your black friends.
It was always taught to me, even in a subconscious way, that calling them black was racist. So, can we either debunk or tell me that that's true? Like, what is your take on calling black people black?
Um, yeah, so my take, I think it's fine. Um, I think some people might see it as um, like maybe white people trying to speak down to them by calling it black, but I think universally it is okay. And then secondly, you do have a lot of black people who live in America who aren't American. I know a girl who lives in the States. She's from London. You do have people who have moved here from the continent of Africa who are not American. So calling them African American doesn't necessarily fit their identity and what they categorize themselves as.
This next question is hard to ask because it probably will make people uncomfortable, but it does have to do with the N word because it is a word that I think in our heads we're like, okay, we know as a white person I can't say that word. But then it's like you sometimes question, you're like, well, if they don't like that word that much, why do we hear it so much in their media or in their music, in movies and TV series about the projects or that culture, and then there's like well, if you can say it I can say it, and I think there's just confusion that I would just love to hear from your perspective why it is such a harsh word coming out of a white person, and it might not be the same way when you're talking from to fellow black people.
Right. Well, it's a loaded question that doesn't really have a clear cut answer. As a black culture, it has been adopted into a word that kind of means like friend or buddy or homie or whatever. Yet when it comes out of the mouth of a white person, it takes you back to the days of slavery when it was used as a derogatory term by, Massa to describe his slaves. Um, you know, we have plenty of words in the English language that have more than one connotation. They mean different things, and it's just something that has a different meaning when it comes out of a white person's mouth than it does when it comes out of a black person's mouth. And I know that's probably not like the best answer, but can a white person say it? No, it's never okay. It's never going to be okay. Um, and I get, it may be in the song. You have to censor yourself because no black person is going to be like, oh, that was okay that you said that. Somebody's going to look and be like, wait, what'd you just say? Like, is that how you really feel?
So if
Yeah.
you want, like, let's just go right into that and like break down white privilege kind of in your own words.
Okay. Um, I saw a post recently and it said it's a privilege to learn about racism instead of experiencing it your whole life. I also recently watched a video where a black man was kneeling as police officers were approaching him, and a white girl came in front of him as police officers were approaching him, and it didn't cause them to necessarily like back up. But when they saw that this white girl had moved to protect this black guy, um, they kind of like halted. They kind of like didn't see it to be as much of a threat. And, a lot of people I'm realizing don't realize that they have white privilege. Um, but it certainly is something that exists. It certainly is something that um, police officers don't treat white people the same way as they treat black people. And it's not just police officers. It could be a teacher. Um, it could really be anybody. They see or don't see darker skin and they don't feel as threatened or anything like that.
How as white people are we even supposed to go about not acting on our white privilege when it is so subconscious? And how do we fix that, if there's a way to fix that?
Um, I don't know if there's a way for it to be fixed because at this point, it is so inherent in American culture. But I do think, like that girl who used her white privilege to stop any type of, negative action or any harm coming to this black man, I definitely think there are ways in which you can use your white privilege. I think you can speak up. I think you can, have conversations with your family members who, you know, maybe in the past you've let little like comments about race, maybe you've let them slide. And now it's time to say, no, auntie, like, you cannot say that. Like, I get it. I'm your niece. I'm also white, but it's not right. And I can't sit here in good faith knowing that, I have friends of other races, particularly black friends, or just as a human being, I can't let you say these things that are so offensive and don't capture the entire black community.
Even words that are said with good intentions can still be the wrong thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the one that like a lot of people say is always the I'm not racist, I have black friends, or I don't see color, or God doesn't see color. And so those are the three that came to my mind, but I'm sure you have plenty of words that are, kind of, or phrases that are similar to that, that oftentimes people who are saying them aren't saying them maliciously and they have good intentions, but they're still missing the mark.
With the I don't see color remark, it's like you're trying to say, I'm ignoring your blackness, I'm ignoring your ethnicity so that you can be more palatable for me. Um, I love everything about being black. I love black culture. I love black hair. I love, you know, black everything. And I'm very proud to be a black woman. So for you to look at me and tell me, oh, I don't see color. Well, then you're not really seeing Tanisha. You're not really seeing who I am. Yes, there are so many other things to me as well. Um, but I want you to see that I'm black because that's also going to help you to understand who I am. And hopefully, it's also maybe going to break down some negative stereotypes that you have about black people. Like, I'm all about disproving those negative stereotypes. Like, again, I have a master's degree. I know lots of black women who have master's degrees, but then you also have a lot of people who think all blacks are stupid and uneducated. So, you know, hopefully that's something that I can help in changing your perception.
And that brings us to kind of like, let's start talking about current events. And that's kind of what, brought you and I together to have this conversation now. And I'd love to just hear what you have to say about kind of what you're seeing going on out here in America.
Yeah. So my first thought is that George Floyd should still be alive. Breonna Taylor should still be alive. Ahmaud Arbery should still be alive. Eric Garner should still be alive. Philando Castile should still be alive. Trayvon Martin should still be alive. And so many more should still be alive as well. In the case of George Floyd, that officer should have never been at that scene because he should have been fired way before this. He had so many complaints. There's no reason why he should have still been employed by the Minneapolis Police Department. As far as the protesting and the riots, I get it. I get it. It has been 400 years, and there are still people in this country that are racist. None of the people that are racist now were alive back then. Why are you still racist? Because it's something that has been carried down and passed on from generation to generation, and that is why it has not gone away. Now, you have protests, you have rioting, and then you have looting. And I do think it is important to know the difference. Protesters are protesting, rioters are rioting, looters are looting. The peaceful protesters are not breaking into the stores. And I think that it's important to make that distinction because it's making everyone look bad and making the entire situation seem a lot worse. Now I know that the looters went into the Target in Minneapolis and stole stuff. But from what I've heard, they were taking milk and water for the people who were out there protesting and who had just been tear gassed because the Target employees were not selling it to them. I'm not saying that if I was there, I would have stolen anything, only because that's just the person that I am. And Target's like my favorite store. So, I probably would have been like, yeah, I'm getting the milk, I'm trying to pay for it, but that's just me. But I can understand why they did it. Like you said, we're at a breaking point, and it's just like, you're out there, you're doing these peaceful things, you're trying to practice your First Amendment right, and then you get tear gassed. And you lose all type of calm that you were trying to hold on to, and you get frustrated and you hit that breaking point and you maybe do things that seem irrational to other people, but at the time, you can't. I don't like how people are looking at these situations because they're not there and they're not necessarily feeling those emotions, and they're just saying like, there they go looting again, or there they go making everything not peaceful. And it's like, you're not there, and if you don't have those emotions and you can't put yourself in their shoes, then you really don't have a place to talk. The Boston Tea Party is in the history books as like the catalyst to the Revolutionary War. Like, how many people do you really think were like, gosh darn it, they're dumping out all our tea, they shouldn't be dumping out all our tea? No, they're probably like, the heck with this, like, we're done, we don't want these taxes. So why is that seen as such a pivotal moment in the founding of this country? And this is not. This is bad. That was good. This is bad. And I think we all know why. And then for the comment, people saying, well, they're destroying their own cities. Black people build this country. Plain and simple. And if peaceful protesting had worked, we wouldn't have to be doing this. But, excuse my language, you called Colin Kaepernick a son of a bitch when he took a knee. Peaceful protesting doesn't work. We tried it. And either, there are some blacks who, have turned and made them violent. But historically, the cops have shown up and sprayed people with water hoses and unleashed dogs. And now they're firing rubber bullets at people and deploying tear gas. So what is it that you want us to do?
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, we know racism, like you said, it's been going on for 400 years, and we go through these kind of cycles of like, a bigger outrage than normal. Little angry, somebody died at the hand of a cop. Little angry here, oh, that one really sucked. But then we have a really, really big thing. Like maybe Rodney King and the LA riots might be one of the last big thing. So we had that, or the Ferguson, Ferguson, came to a lot of people's mind as like, oh, that was the last really big thing. And then a few years goes by and we all go back to quote unquote normal. And now we've got this thing, which I think is even bigger than Ferguson because it has reached across the whole nation. And I just kind of want to know from your perspective, why is this time seemingly seem so different?
I think it's because this time the cop can't hide behind, oh, I felt my life was threatened and that's why I shot and killed him. There was no gun. I couldn't watch the whole video because I can't bear to see what the cop did or ex-cop did, but it was captured on video. There is no scenario in which you place your knee and all of your body weight on somebody's neck. They tell you repeatedly that they cannot breathe, and you make no attempt to move unless you intend to kill him. And I think that people finally realize, okay, this was just wrong. This was against everything that I believe in. And I think that even if you are one of those people who doesn't think race plays a factor, I think it's also tugging at people who are religious, and they're thinking, oh, well, as, a Christian or as a Muslim or as a Jew, in our sacred book, it says that murder is wrong. And that is another factor as to why they think that this time was so much more obvious that it was murder.
I don't think you can watch the video, watch a clip of the video, just have a basic idea of what happened and not see it as cold-blooded murder.
Yes.
We have a lot of these other groups matter too. like the gays' lives matter and white people lives matter, white lives matter, or cops' lives matter, like blue lives matter, like it just as if all lives matter. I don't know. It's like those phrases we never really had heard before until the first time we were hearing Black Lives Matter.
It's almost like Black people can't have anything. Like, I can't say Black Lives Matter without my white life mattering too.
Which is never, and to clarify, is never what Black Lives Matter has meant. Is never well, Black Lives Matter more than white people.
No, it's saying, hey, Black Lives Matter too. Do I believe all lives matter? Yes. But that's not what we're talking about right now. It's insensitive to throw out the all lives matter or the blue lives matter right now because they never come up until people start saying Black Lives Matter again. And as for the blue lives matter, I've seen people on my Facebook who are saying, oh, well, my white husband is a cop and now I'm scared for his life. My question to you is, are you as scared for your life when he walks out the door without his uniform on as you are when he does? Because Black people can't take off their skin. I am a target no matter any day or night. My husband is a target no matter what day or time he walks out the door. Anyone who looks like me is. And there's nothing we can do to change that. So for you to say, oh, because of my so-and-so's job, that makes them a target, you can't equate the two. They are inherently different. I know one of the questions you had asked was, how do white people stop or not be seen as like the white savior?
Yes.
In these times. And I think the way you do that is by supporting us, by standing with us, by helping us, but not necessarily speaking for us. Like if you were to have a conversation with a family member, I don't need you to say like, well, on behalf of my Black friend Tanisha, X, Y, and Z. No, I need you to say, well, you're wrong. And me as Katie, even though I'm white, I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. Don't feel like you have to, come to our rescue. Certainly speak up and speak out if something is wrong. But, you're not doing that on behalf of all Black people. You're doing that on behalf of humanity, because racism is wrong. It's a fact. It's not, anything up for debate at this point.
So,
Agreed.
tough question for you, but have you experienced racism? And I kind of feel like I already know the answer of yes, because, like you've said, like you almost can't be a Black person in America without having experienced it.
Growing up, I almost lived like a split life, I feel like. I went to school, predominantly white schools all my life. And then on the weekends, my family who's Black. So I was culturally, my weeks looked different from my weekends, or my non-school time looked different from my school time. My mom reminded me the other day, I was 3, I was in preschool, and there was a white girl who told me that I could not play with the doll because the doll was white and I was Black. At 3, like I said, I don't remember it, and I don't know how I reacted. But hearing that now, and not just given everything that's going on, quite frankly, like, pissed me off, because I'm just like, at 3, you don't just know to say that to somebody. You've heard that from somebody else. And so, I mean, there's no excuse. And like we said earlier, that's something that has been passed down. And why has it been passed down? Why is it something that a 3-year-old is saying to another 3-year-old? At 3, you're eating glue and, sticking your finger up your nose. Like, you're not saying things like, oh, you can't play with that doll because that doll's white and you're Black.
Yeah, that's not an original thought.
Exactly.
How can we as white people have that balance of when can we ask and what's appropriate to ask, and when do we just need to go and look things up for ourselves?
Yeah, and I think it's like, I don't think Black people necessarily mind educating you, especially if it's someone you know. Like, I know you're coming from a good place, but it's kind of the timing of it. It's like, okay, why are you so interested now? Like, when, Trayvon Martin died and we wanted to talk about it, you guys didn't want to talk about it. When Michael Brown died, you didn't want to talk about it, but now you want to talk about it. When Colin Kaepernick took a knee, you didn't want to talk about it, but now you want to talk about it. It's like, we've been trying to talk about it, and now you want to use your white privilege and think that it's because it's convenient for you that we are supposed to put everything to the side and, talk to you about why this is wrong or why this is bad. So whereas I don't necessarily mind it, I also don't want to be like inundated with, simple questions. Like, I don't need you asking me why is racism wrong. Like, if still you're asking that, then that you need to do some internal reflection.
Yeah, right. We kind of have already talked a lot about, like, what can we do? But I think another question is, like, is there even any hope that things can get better, that racism can end, that this can be a chapter in the history books that, next generations look at and be like, wow, they didn't like people because of the color of their skin. That's so weird. Like, do you think we can ever get there, and how?
I don't think that's a question for Black people. I think that's a question for non-Black people. Black people have been fighting for equality for so long now that it's nothing new. White people are just now finally starting to listen and to act. So I think the better question is, are white people now going to speak up, stand up, have those difficult conversations, make their positions known? Is everybody else willing to change and willing to step up to the plate so that this can be something that, I I tell my kid about and they aren't experiencing? I would love for us to, as a country, as a society, to get to a place where I never have to have that, but it's not up to me. I mean, if it were up to Black people, like, we wouldn't have been enslaved for so long. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Like, no, duh.
right. If Black people could change this on their own, it would have happened already.